Welcome back into the Daily Dose. I'm Jeff Hansen. The show is brought to you by Give'emHellBrigham.com and by CougarSportsInsider.com, part of the 24/7 Sports Network. You guys are the best. Thank you for subscribing to the show, for fueling the algorithm. Your interactions, your shares, comments, likes, all of those things have helped us grow this platform to north of 3,000 subscribers. We're still a couple of weeks away from the season. I have nothing else to say. You guys are fantastic. It's humbling that you're here with us every single day here at the Daily Dose. So thank you so much for your support. Kingsley Suamataia is a freak, at least according to Bruce Feldman, but we've already known that Kingsley Suamataia is a freak. In fact, if I go back in time, I get into my little time machine, and I go back to Kingsley Suamataia's 9th grade year. That's the first time that I ever reached out to Kingsley or his family to start talking about his recruitment. If you remember, BYU actually offered Kingsley back when he was in 8th grade, so I was a year behind the times by not reaching out to him until he was in 9th grade. For better or worse, fair or unfair, Kingsley has been compared to Penei Sewell for nearly his entire life. And that's the kind of athletic specimen that Kingsley Suamataia is. And I reached out all the way back in 9th grade, and I started talking to a member of his family. And the member of his family said to me, he's super athletic. He's going to be big time, but right now he's an athlete. He's still got to learn to be a football player. Well, fast forward all the way to today. It's now been nearly a decade since that conversation. And Kingsley Suamataia is an excellent football player. He's a future first-round draft pick. He's got the technique down, and the comparisons to Penei Sewell aren't as crazy as they seemed all those years ago. I mean, he's got the right size, he's got the right athleticism, and he's a heck of a football player, so it makes a ton of sense. But one thing that never went away is that freaky athleticism that made him pop onto the radar as an 8th grader and made him pop onto the radar at a national level as a 9th grader. He's a freak. I mean, there's nothing else to say. He is a freak. Bruce Feldman reached out to Aaron Roderick and talked about it. I want to read the quote verbatim. Kingsley Suamataia checked in at number 3 on Bruce Feldman's athletic freaks list that he releases every single year. 3 is the highest that I can remember a BYU player ever being ranked. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about what Aaron Roderick said that made Kingsley so freaky. He said, Kingsley Suamataia is the most athletic and violent offensive lineman I have ever coached. More athletic than Garrett Bolles when I was at Utah, more athletic than Blake Freeland. That's pretty remarkable. Garrett Bolles was insane. Blake Freeland set combine testing records. If Aaron Roderick is telling the truth, and I think that he is, Kingsley is in a class all on his own. He is an athletic specimen, but it was more than just Kingsley. Skylar Main, who is a sports scientist with BYU, he works with a lot of players across the state, not just at BYU, but he works heavily with BYU. He had this to say about Kingsley Suamataia. Kingsley is off the charts. He's faster than our linebackers. He's just a freak in the weight room. What makes it look different from Blake is that Kingsley just makes it look a little bit more effortless. Blake was a better jumper, but Kingsley was our fastest offensive lineman by a good bit. According to Maine, Suamataia hit 21.5 miles per hour last year as a 318-pound freshman. 21.5 miles per hour would be really good for a 220-pound linebacker. At 320 pounds as an offensive tackle, that is insane. Kingsley will be the anchor of the BYU offensive line. The rest of the offensive line, talented, deep, productive, but there's still some question marks of who slides into what position. But Kingsley, in large part due to his insane athleticism, is locked in at left tackle, and he'll be locked into the NFL. That's where he's headed. He is a special, special player. When BYU lost Kingsley to Oregon, it was a gut shot to the coaching staff. They had recruited him so well and so hard and for so many years that when it all kind of culminated into him leaving the state and going somewhere else, it stung. That Kingsley was the kind of guy that BYU needs, right? He's the kind of guy that BYU needs to stay competitive, not only in the Big 12 conference, but even back then as an independent school. Kingsley was a difference maker. A true 5-star player who grew up loving BYU, who grew up down the road, who grew up with a million family ties. It hurt when he went to Oregon. Unfortunately, he enters the transfer portal after his true freshman season and comes back to BYU, where he really belonged all along. And now BYU is the benefactor of everything that Kingsley Suamataia brings to the table. I'm really excited for him. Of all of the players on the offense this year, I think Kingsley could take the biggest jump. That's not to say that he needs to take a jump. He was really, really good last year. But I think this year, now that he's one of the unquestioned leaders on the team, he's had another year in the system, his technique is caught up to that athleticism. I think Kingsley Suamataia is on the fast track to the first round of the NFL draft next season. Thank you so much for taking a part of us and joining us here with the Daily Dose. Appreciate your support. Until next time, give them hell.